Alright, so leading up to the NFL season, I've talked about some teams that I feel like are really interesting heading into 2021, and I'm going to continue that trend today, and we're going to talk about my favorite team, the New England Patriots. Yeah, for those guys who did not know, I'm a Patriots fan. Now you guys know. And more specifically, I'm going to go over the Patriots and why I think they are dark horse contenders to win the Super Bowl in 2021. Before we get started, I do want to say, make sure you guys check out my podcast if you guys haven't already. The link to it is in the description below. I do want to try and grow that thing, so it would mean a lot to me if you guys could go ahead and check it out and subscribe. But with that being said, let's get this video started. And like we always do with these teams, we're going to go over the offensive side of the football first. And New England's offense last year, it was not good, to put it lightly. The ground game and offensive line, I'll admit they were pretty good, but their passing offense was god awful. But as we know, Bill Belichick, he essentially turned off salary cap as if it was franchise mode in Madden, and he spent a lot of money to help improve the weapons on this team. Now the Patriots, they did already have a really solid wide receiver in Jacoby Myers, and he was really good for them last year, but they did acquire Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders, and while he does have his consistency issues, he did have a career season with Vegas last year, and if he can stay consistent, he is going to be an extremely valuable contributor to the New England Patriots, and it would be really awesome if he could just be a consistent player, because when he is consistent and when he's not dropping the ball all the time, he is a really good player. And the final notable wide receiver that he added in free agency was Kendrick Bourne, and Kendrick Bourne had a career season with San Francisco last year, and he's a guy who can just work the middle of the field, and he's a pretty solid wide receiver. He's not elite or anything like that. It's not like we just stole Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers, but, well, even then, he's not elite. But anyways, like, point is, Kendrick Bourne is still a very solid player, and I gotta say, that was a really good pickup by the New England Patriots. But the two biggest free agency acquisitions on offense for the Patriots were by far the signings of Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Both are tight ends, by the way, but both of them are starting caliber tight ends, and it is clear the Patriots are going to be running a 12 personnel offense with two tight ends on the field. And I think this 12 personnel offense could be really deadly, since the Patriots, they can do a lot of things with it. They can run the ball very well, especially when you consider how good their offensive line is, and those two tight ends, it's just going to make life a whole lot harder for the defense, because, well, that's just even more big bodies. And if they run play action, well, teams will have to run out heavy sets, and yeah, man, like, I mean, that can free up, room for running backs to, maybe eat in the receiving game. And along with that, if they do call like hurry up, and then they can line up someone like Jonnu Smith as a wide receiver. And if they line up one of the tight ends as a wide receiver, and they're matched up against a defensive back, well, that's kind of hell, and it's kind of over, because those defensive backs are probably going to be too small to cover those tight ends. And I will admit, the wide receiving core is still not elite. It is definitely not elite, but it's still pretty solid, alright? It's not that bad of a pass-catching group anymore, and the wide receiving core, in my opinion, does not have to be elite, because the tight end group, it certainly is elite, and the tight ends are going to do a lot of damage in the receiving game, and all the wide receiving core needs to do, all the wide receiving core really needs to do is just be decent. That's all the wide receiving core really has to do. And I gotta say, I mean, how do you get worse than the 2020 Patriots receiving core? That is super duper hard to do. It is extremely hard to do. I don't know if you really can do that. I mean, you could always, have a practice squad, as your team, but I mean, point is, it's just super hard to get worse than the Patriots skill position groups in 2020. But yeah, man, it's improved a lot, and I'm extremely excited to see this revamped wide receiving and tight end core. It is definitely one of the most improved skill position groups in the NFL. And let's talk about the offensive line. And the offensive line, it is awesome, as I alluded to earlier. It is extremely good. Now, they did lose Joe Thuney, and he is a really good player in his own right, but they did reacquire former Patriot Trent Brown via a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders this offseason, and Trent Brown is a really good player. Now, I will admit, on the Raiders, he did fall off a little bit compared to what he was in the 2018 season, which is why, he signed that massive deal with the Raiders in the 2019 offseason. But yeah, along on tackle, they got the aforementioned Trent Brown, and along with him, they do have Isaiah Wynn, and Isaiah Wynn, I know he does have his health issues, but when he's on the field, he is a damn good player, and he's one of the best tackles in the league when he's on the field. And then there's the interior, and it's also really good as well. Michael Onwenu, he was one of the best rookie offensive linemen last year, and in fact, he played tackle for the Patriots last year, and I mean, now they're moving him back to guard, which I believe is his natural position. And I mean, Michael Onwenu, a very good player. He can play guard, he can play tackle, and overall, just a great player. Plus, they do have Shaq Mason, Jackson, and he is one of the best guards in the league. And they also have David Andrews, and he's one of the best centers in the NFL. And this team, they're just not the same when David Andrews is just not on the field. So, I mean, overall, a great offensive line. I am not concerned about the offensive line. The Patriots running back room, it's also, again, it's very good. Damien Harris, he was extremely good last season, and he's probably going to have a breakout season in 2021, given the fact that he will probably take over the running back one duties, and I think he will stay healthy, and hopefully he does. And not only do they have Dame, but they also have a really good running back room. You know, it's very deep, as I said before. I mean, it's just a really deep receiving core. Sony Michel, he's been pretty disappointing since 2018, but he's still a pretty solid player. Plus, they have James White, who's a good rotational piece, and he's a good receiving back. And Ramondre Stevenson, he has looked very good so far in preseason. Now, granted, it is just preseason, but overall, still, he is a really good player. But let's now go over the quarterback position, which is the final offensive position we have to go look at, and it's probably the most interesting out of all the positions on offense, and really just in general for the Patriots. Of course, in the 2020 season, they had to find a replacement for Tom Brady, as unfortunately he did leave them after spending nearly 2 decades with them. And the two guys who I could see starting next year are Cam Newton and Mac Jones. Let's first discuss Cam Newton. In 2020, he was just not good, to put it simply, alright? He threw for only 8 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and it's just not good, alright? However, at the same time, when you look at the obstacles he faced, it's kind of understandable that he did struggle, you know? This man was coming off a very big injury. He signed with the Patriots in late June. He had a short offseason and no preseason that year. And along with that, he had really, really bad weapons on offense, alright? And it also should be noted that he played very well in the first few weeks before he got the virus. And as bad as he was passing the ball overall in 2020, he could still run the ball very well. And hey, I mean, that's still something. And Cam Newton, now he's going to be getting a full offseason to learn the playbook and the system and, get healthy. So I have faith in Cam Newton that, he can play well, because he showed it before he got the virus, and with the full offseason to learn the playbook, as I said before, and much better weapons, I definitely have faith Cam Newton can definitely bounce back. And if he does not play well, the Patriots, they can always turn to Mac Jones if needed. Mac Jones, he's been really good in preseason, and granted, it is just preseason, but he is pretty NFL ready. And hey, I mean, you can definitely start him now, and you can definitely win games with Mac Jones. The Patriots got a great roster, and Mac Jones, he is a pretty NFL ready player. And then there's the defense, and I gotta say, it did take a little bit of a step back last year, but it was still a really good unit, and they did deal with a lot of opt-outs and off-season losses. And with some off-season additions and opt-outs coming back, I gotta say, this Patriots defense, it could very well reach elite status in 2021, and I'm not that concerned about the defense. The front seven last year, it was just not very good, but to be fair, the young guys playing there, they did lack experience, and because they were so young, so it is kind of understandable that they did struggle. But I have no doubt in my mind that the guys up front, the unit up front, I guess, it should definitely improve. Dante Hightower, he opted out last year, and he is a very big part of the team, but he's going to be coming back. And they also added a Pro Bowl caliber edge rusher in Matthew Judon. Now, he did have a down season in 2020, but I definitely think he can bounce back. Plus, they signed some smaller names, and they can definitely serve as really good rotational pieces and run stoppers. And they did draft Christian Barmore in the second round of this past year's NFL draft, and I think he can be a very good player in his rookie season. And to cap it all off, the young guys should be able to improve with more experience. I'm really excited to see this front seven, and I wouldn't really put it in the elite tier of front sevens, but it's still a pretty good front seven. And then there's the secondary, and the Patriots secondary. What can I really say? It's one of the best in the NFL. It's maybe the best in the NFL. I don't know if I'd call it it's one of the best in the NFL, right? They have arguably the best cornerback tandem in the league with Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson. And to pair with that, they have a good slot corner in Jonathan Jones and some nice safeties in Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips, and Kyle Duggar, who could possibly break out in year 2. They also did sign Jalen Mills from the Philadelphia Eagles, and he wasn't super good with Philadelphia. I gotta admit that. He was pretty inconsistent, but he is a versatile player, and New England, they are good at getting the best out of defensive players, and maybe the same thing happens to Jalen Mills. I do hope so, and he can definitely be a nice rotational piece on that defense. I don't have a lot of concerns about this defense, though, and it should definitely be a really good unit. And how can we we can't forget about the coaching, right? The Patriots, they have the greatest coach in NFL history, Bill goddamn Belichick. Coaching, it can make a massive impact, positive or negative, in the NFL, and Bill Belichick is gonna keep this team pretty competitive, all right? This team won 7 games last year with the team that was probably only should have won 4 games given the lack of talent they had on their roster. They had a tough schedule facing off against the teams like the Dolphins and Bills, both 2 times a year, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Cardinals, and a really solid team in the Raiders, and overall, that schedule was really tough. And when you factor in the bad rosters, I said before, the opt-outs, the virus outbreak, and the tough schedule, I think that goes to show, like, how impressive their 2020 season was, you know? And not only that, but I think we should also, you know, mention that they were just a few plays away from having, like, an above 500 record, and they were in the playoff hunt up until week 15 with that team, which I gotta say is really impressive. Yes, 7 wins. I mean, it's usually not something to really celebrate, especially when you consider how good the Patriots have been over the past 20 years. And I gotta admit, it did suck seeing my Patriots not make the playoffs. But when you look at everything they had to deal with, I think 7 wins was very impressive, all right? The Patriots roster is now one of the better rosters in the league, and they sport a fantastic defense. They got a much better front 7. They got one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, one of the best tight end rooms in the league, maybe the best tight end room, a really good running back room, a much improved receiving core. Although it's not elite, it's still much improved, and the only thing they need is just a decent game manager level quarterback play at the very least. That's all they need. Quarterback play, it's the big X factor for them, all right? That's why I think they're a dark horse contender, not really a top dog, because we don't know how the quarterback play will be. You know, I do speculate it will be good, but then again, it's all speculation, all right? But if either Mac Jones or Cam Newton provides that level of quarterback play, then this team has all the tools to make a deep playoff run, and at the very least, be a playoff team. And if the quarterback play is really good, then I would not be surprised if the Patriots won the AFC East and made a deep playoff run, all right? I'll admit, I'm definitely a little bit biased when I make this video and say everything that I did say, and when I say that they are dark horse contenders, but there's no way this team doesn't win at least 7 to 8 games and isn't a playoff contender at the very least. I mean, look at what they were able to do with look what they were able to do with that roster in 2020. Now, just imagine a much improved roster, and this time the schedule isn't as tough, and not only that, but the quarterback's got a full off season. I gotta say, as I said before, if the quarterback play is good, this team, they are gonna be scary. You know, they are really well balanced. They got great coaching, and all I can say is just watch out for the Patriots. Now, I don't think they are the favorites to win the AFC East, but they can definitely win it. And as I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a deep playoff run. But hey, kind of all I have to say for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed, as it really helps out the channel. And also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.